I need to bring to your attention a story from CNN. House moderates are lining up behind Kevin McCarthy. The moderates in the House of Representatives are upset with Congressman Andy Biggs, who is, for lack of a better term, never Kevin. There are 5 Republican members of the House of Representatives who are opposed to Kevin McCarthy. They don't want Kevin McCarthy. They are opposed to Kevin McCarthy. And they have the votes, it looks like, possibly to block Kevin McCarthy. I am deeply upset with the conservative movement and conservative organizations who do not have the backs of these conservatives in Washington. To my knowledge, the only conservative group in Washington that is standing with conservatives is Russ Vought and the Center for Renewing America. Everyone else is on the sidelines. Do you not see what's going on? The moderates are lining up behind Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy has been wooing conservatives, making promises to conservatives, and the conservatives aren't biting, and he's building a coalition of moderates, and it is exactly as I told you people it would be. Kevin McCarthy is a wishy-washy, spineless politician who sticks his finger in the wind and goes whichever way the wind blows, and conservatives are wholly and completely expendable to him in any and all cases. He is not one of us. He has never been one of us. For all the people who complain about the Republican establishment, Kevin McCarthy is as Republican establishment as Mitch McConnell. At least McConnell got conservative judges put on the bench. What has Kevin McCarthy ever done for anyone other than make promises that he finds immediately able to break once the situation resolves itself in a different direction? You want that guy as Speaker of the House? I'd at least like a Speaker of the House, even if I disagree with them, who at least I knew where they stood on an issue. Kevin McCarthy doesn't know where he stands on an issue until a poll comes out. It is a damning indictment on the members of the conservative movement who are not speaking out against Kevin McCarthy. For years and years and years, these conservative organizations railed on the Republican establishment, and Kevin McCarthy was part of it. In fact, there's an old clip about the succession plan where even Paul Ryan, who none of these conservative groups like, says Kevin was the guy. Why on earth? Why on earth would you support someone like McCarthy? After all we went through with John Boehner and before him, Denny Hastert? Why Kevin McCarthy? A friend of mine who served with him in the California legislature used to tell me a funny story about McCarthy. They served in neighboring districts and would fly home together from Sacramento, where the legislature meets full-time year-round. And that while all the other members of the California legislature headed down to Southern California were reading their legislation, their white papers, marking stuff up, McCarthy was reading People magazine and Us Weekly. It is McCarthy and his idea that he needs to have a pulse on the people. He's a poll-driven politician. He's a principle-less politician. And I think we can do better. And I want to be very honest with you. I would prefer a moderate Speaker of the House because Kevin McCarthy is a moderate Speaker of the House. Kevin McCarthy is not a conservative. I wouldn't even say Kevin McCarthy is a moderate. Kevin McCarthy is an opportunist. And I would rather a moderate Speaker of the House who has some principles and convictions, so at least I know how I might be able to persuade them other than I need to go write a donation and do a poll. Have some convictions. McCarthy has gotten as high as he has gotten on the ladder of leadership because he's been able to play everybody for himself. opportunists tend to get far in life, and I don't think we need an opportunist in charge of the House of Representatives. Say what you will about Nancy Pelosi, but at least you knew where she stood on the issues, and you knew she wasn't going to waver on the issues. She wasn't going to backtrack on the issues. She might compromise on the issues to try to get something out of it. That's her style. That's the style of someone we should want on our side instead of a rank opportunist who's in it for his own social climbing skills. The Center for Renewing America and Russ Vogt, you need to remember this. They're the only conservative group out there right now who's willing to speak up about this. They're the only ones willing to say, no, there are conservatives, movement conservatives, attacking Andy Biggs, Matt Rosendale, Ralph Northam, and the like for refusing to go along with Kevin McCarthy. Why? Because Trump. I would remind you that in every swing state where Donald Trump weighed in on a major candidate, those candidates lost. And now he's behind Kevin McCarthy. Why the hell do we need a second speaker in a row from California anyway? The Republicans in the House of Representatives, I think, would be nuts to continue to go forward in the path that didn't deliver them many results other than a very close Congress. And I will point out to you conservative organizations who are keeping your mouth shut, the bigger the majority of the House expands for the Republicans over the next few years, the more likely you are to be ignored. The more likely you are to be expendable to Kevin McCarthy. He didn't need you before. He doesn't really want you now. He just knows he needs to get you on board to secure his speakership. Look at all of the promises he was willing to make to you. He even got Marjorie Taylor Greene on his side, making her promises. And now what's he doing? He's aligning with the moderates who are suggesting they'll throw the conservatives out of their committee seats if they don't go along with it. That's the same bullying tactic Nancy Pelosi used. The difference between Pelosi and McCarthy is that it wasn't about leadership and power for Pelosi. It was about principle and progressive conviction. With McCarthy, it's just about the acquisition of power. I am tired of Republicans going along with people who just want to acquire power. He's like Pete Buttigieg, but slightly more accomplished. He's just an ambitious ladder climber. He could have been the mayor of South Bend and run for president. You could see it. Pete Buttigieg probably has more substance than Kevin McCarthy, actually. He was a Rhodes Scholar. Y'all, I've been around this block. I've seen how this game is played. This is the sort of man you don't want to put in the speaker's chair. This is the sort of man you should not put anywhere near higher power than where he is now. Find an alternative. Find an alternative. Find someone with conviction. I don't care if it's a moderate. He's a moderate. He claims to be conservative. He's an establishment Republican. Find a moderate with actual conviction so at least you know where they stand on the issues. Then you can navigate around that person and let the House of Representatives work. You know one of the things that Kevin McCarthy says he's opposed to? He's opposed to an open legislative process. You know what an open legislative process is? It's one of the things that the House Republican conservatives are demanding. One of their demands is an open legislative process on spending bills with open rules on the House floor to allow any amendment. McCarthy says he doesn't support this plan. This used to be standard operating procedure in the House of Representatives. What the House leadership does now is they write these top-down rules, and they write these top-down pieces of legislation, and they rush them through so no one can see what's in there. Do you know what the Democrats just did with their top-down process where there were no open rules? They rushed through a continuing resolution for a week, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to beef up protections for House employees. It was a 328-page plan updating employment regulations for staffers in the House under overtime provisions, and a step towards further unionization of House members. And the top-down approach that Kevin McCarthy wants allowed the House Democrats to ram this through sight unseen with no one paying attention. That's what McCarthy wants. He doesn't want legislators to legislate. He does not want an open process. We need an open process. Congress doesn't work anymore. Congressmen are nothing but pundits, free pundits for Fox and MSNBC. Open the legislative process. You know what? Here's the thing about the open legislative process. The conservatives will not get everything they want with an open legislative process. But the progressives won't either. They will actually have to do the work of legislating and sit in committees and try to find the votes to get things done. They will have to offer amendments on the floor to improve legislation. In other words, they will have to do the job of the House of Representatives instead of letting Kevin McCarthy do it all with his finger in the wind. It's time to make the House of Representatives work again. And if you want to make the House of Representatives work again, you got to reject Kevin McCarthy. You got to put in a speaker who's willing to have open rules on the floor of the House. You got to have a speaker who's, frankly, willing to let the majority leader and the minority leader deal with the squabbling of the inter-party intramurals while he actually handles just the House, so that both sides actually have a speaker they can trust to steer things for the House of Representatives properly. Kevin McCarthy's not going to give you that. He wants the power. And I have seen too many people who crave this level of power too much, who represent nothing and stand for nothing other than themselves. And I'm really damn tired of Republicans putting these sorts of people in power. And I'm appalled at members of the conservative movement who are attacking the conservatives in the House who are standing up to this. We've seen this game played before. You know, the last time conservatives stood up and complained about a Speaker of the House, they were proven right when finally everyone rallied around and ousted John Boehner. And it took a long time for the conservatives to show everyone they were right. Here they are again doing the same thing, and the same thing is happening again. Conservative groups are keeping their mouths shut. Some conservatives are attacking the conservatives in the House for raising the red flag on this issue. Listen, none of these conservatives are saying, hey, we have to have a fire-breathing House Freedom Caucus conservative Speaker of the House. They're just saying not Kevin McCarthy. And that the moderates, the squishes, the progressives, the liberals, and the conservative movement establishment people won't even acknowledge their basic point that we just got to do better than him is a damning indictment on where we are. Donald Trump got elected because people got so fed up with the establishment of the Republican Party. And like the Bourbons of France, the establishment Republicans have learned nothing and forgotten nothing and are going to make the same mistakes again until, like the Bourbons of France, things get worse for them. They're chased out of power. The best way to stop that from happening is to stop Kevin McCarthy from becoming the Speaker of the House of Representatives.